Welcome to Evolution on the Mic. I am your host, Ariana de la Cruz.
And I'm your co-host, Antoine Dove.
And we are back, season 3, The Journey to Success. Episode 10, we have an amazing guest speaker with y'all, but I just want to go back to our last episode. We interviewed Quinn Reynolds about her journey to success and what she has learned along the way. There were a lot of great gems on that episode, guys. So if you haven't watched, I highly recommend you go back and check it out. I mean, there was just a lot of great information, a lot of perspective shifts about yourself and your journey to success. So definitely go and check it out. Today, episode 10, we will be bringing back our good friend Andrea Lee to the show. She will be discussing her new book, The Power to Change the Way You Love Yourself, 10 Life-Changing Steps to Self-Love. As a multi-talented innovator, community organizer, poet, and impactful speaker, Coach Lee offers a unique perspective on self-love and personal growth. I am so excited to bring Andrea Lee back. She was a guest speaker of ours a few months ago, like when we first started. And this is so exciting and thrilling to have her on here to talk about her journey, her successes with this book, like what, empowered her to create this book and share it with us, and her successes that she's had with helping people realize self-love and everything that it takes, and for herself, and how she's impacted others. So Andrea Lee, thank you so much for coming back and sharing with us all the awesome gems you're about to share with us about your new book. How are you doing today, Andrea?
I'm doing wonderful, and thank you guys so much for having me back. It's such a pleasure to be here with you all, and I'm so excited for this episode.
Awesome. Andrea, so I know that we had you on the show before, and the viewers that have been following us since, the beginning stages kind of know about a little bit about you and what you do. But can you just give us a little bit about yourself and your background, just for those that are kind of just tuning in to who you are?
Okay, well, my name, like she said, is Andrea Lee, and I am a mother first. I'm a chef, a poet. I love working with my community. I now work with an organization called Creative Love Network, and we put on different events and shows for poets and musicians and people in our community. We just had an amazing all-white kings and queens of poetry. We had some amazing people on there. We honored two people, Judah one and Father Amdi of the Watts Prophets. So it was really, really good to just connect with people and then have a good time and get inspired, by different people in their craft and what they do. I love cooking, I love family, and I love community. So I feel like I was put here to do service work. So everything I do is in service to other people. And I felt like it was important for me to share parts of my story without going too much in depth and not being a victim, to what I went through in my life, just trying to find something to overcome that and help other people overcome with their struggles as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And like speaking about that, like what inspired you, right, to write the book, The Power to Change the Way You Love Yourself? Like what that inspiration came from?
So when I growing up, I didn't have really good parents. And I didn't know what love was. So people use that word like I love you. And I used to get offended, like, you don't even know me. How do you love me? So growing up in the church and different things like that, they would tell me about God's love. And I'm like, it was confusing at first because I said I have this mom that don't even show me that or give me any of that love. So I want to find what this love is, So just going back and, interacting with people. And as I said before, I love people and just getting to know them and trying to figure out the why to certain situations. And sometimes you don't get that why. So I need to soul search and find that love for
Mm,
myself. So in my book, it's just going back to my experiences in my life. And then when I'm having kids, and then how I learned how to love, right? I didn't like to be touched or hugged or anything. It was just like, foreign to me. So once I got used to that, and now in my community, everybody hugs. Well, this is how I greet people.
mm,
So I have to get comfortable with those things. And I have a friend that still doesn't, really like hugs, but she gives hugs on special occasions to certain people. So, but I want to be happy, and I want to
mm,
embrace love and the people that show me true love, right? So we start off by how do we first find what love is, and that's from our parents. So that's how the book starts off, and then it goes in progression to the different types of love with our siblings, if we have siblings. We come from abusive background, trauma, and then we have friends at school that we, love, and then we have a little boyfriend or girlfriend that we think we in love with, right? So
Yeah.
I get married or have a partner in life, and that's a different type of love. So just going through those stages, but you're giving so much of yourself. So where is the love for you? So how could you truly love someone else if you don't know how to love yourself? So it's just getting back to you and teaching you those steps to love. So it's 10 different steps that you go through in activities to get back to you.
Okay, I totally understand. If without getting too personal as you want to get, right? Because I really want the viewers to understand the things that you went through as a, as a kid, like with your mom or the people closest to you. Like, what were some of the things that triggered you not feeling loved? Like, what were some of the actions or things that you went through, experienced? Because to write a book, the power, the power to love yourself, it's because it was something that was really in like that was very like that stood out in your past, right? So I would like the viewers to kind of get to see that a bit, because I'm sure that people could relate maybe to some of the things that you went through, and that how you overcame that, and now you are an advocate for self-love, and that you can find that for yourself.
So the word power is very profound, right? So I'm taking my power back, and I'm not allowing anybody to say this is how I love you, right? So growing up, my mom was very abusive.
Mhm.
And we didn't have a lot of things. She allowed things to happen to me that should never happen to a young girl, you know. And then when I shared these things with her, it was like, well, God wanted that to happen. If you didn't do this and that, then that wouldn't have happened to you. You were just a bad kid. But I'm like, I'm young, and then she used to put us out when she was upset. I remember as early as probably 7 years old, just outside 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, walking around the street. So it was horrible. Right. So if I can find that love and forgiveness, and I know people probably been through worse things than me. And when I say I got a story to tell, I have some stories, to tell, but I'm not gonna let that consume my life and make me a horrible person. So I want to change that. So, just finding my way back, the power to change the way that you love yourself, right? It's nobody on nobody else's terms, not the Webster Dictionary or anything like that. And for me, I always knew that it was a higher power. I always knew that it was a God. I always believed in God. Nothing shaked my faith or my belief in that, no matter what I've been through. So we can make excuses all day long and say, why is this happening? Why did that happen? I don't believe in this. But for me, I just didn't feel that way. And I know some other people might give up on their belief systems and their faith and things like that. But I feel like today, in a lot of situations, I shouldn't be here, but I'm here for a reason. So
Mhm.
my purpose and my reason is to share my story and my gifts of service with other people in everything I do. Either it be coaching, cooking, my poetry, my writing. I have to share this so I can help change someone else's life for the better.
Amen. I love that. And I mean, you're definitely doing that, Andrea, with this book, and just showcasing and like being okay with being vulnerable and transparent about some of the things you went through. I mean, my gosh, at 7 years old, like I have a goddaughter that's 7 years old, 8 years old. Like, I'm just like, can you imagine like my best friend putting her out in the street? I couldn't even. That little girl wouldn't know what to do. You know what I mean? So it hits home, right? Because you can be like, oh, I was young, I was seven, but no, like if you really think about a child that's 7 years old, and the mom, because of her own traumas, right, inflicting that on you as a kid because she's in a bad mood or she's upset, or kids being kids, and she's just like, time out, and your timeout is in the street, not go to the corner, not go to your room, but like go out. Like that's just a glimpse, I'm sure, of the things that you went through with your mom, because that's already huge. That's already something that it's like, what is wrong with you? Like, you don't do that. Like, you must be really broken to do that to a child. So, but just you sharing that, right, is just giving us a glimpse of the bigger picture of what you went through and what you overcame. I'd like to know, how do you define self-love? Like, what is your definition to it, and why is it important in today's world?
So self-love for me is in every single aspect of your life, personal, work, right, relationships. You have the power to say no. Like, this is not for me. I
Yeah, I
can't
love
do
that.
this. I need a mental break. I need some time to myself, some self-care. And then getting back to you is you have to be comfortable with being alone. Being comfortable in your own skin, your own space,
Mm,
spending time with yourself, doing probably absolutely nothing. Taking yourself out to a movie or eating lunch or dinner by yourself. Some people don't enjoy their own company. I enjoy myself. I have a good time reading a book, working on something that I'm interested in. And I feel like that's the problem with a lot of people. They don't know how to be alone and be comfortable with being alone with themselves and getting to know who they are, right? And finding your talent. I believe that everybody has a gift, everybody has a talent. You just have to tap into it. But how do you find that if you're so busy consumed with everybody else and not
mm,
yourself? So I think that's the bigger issue that we have to look at, being comfortable with being alone.
okay.
Mhm.
That's so true. I totally agree. I don't know if Antoine, you were
Yeah,
gonna
no,
say
I
something
mean,
about that.
yeah. So I think another thing, and I love that line, self love. Like it's giving you the power to say no, and I think there's Quinn talked about this in our last episode. We've also talked about it in several episodes before about having that quiet time for yourself, and not only be for you having that introspective moment, but also for your connection and your pipeline with God. But something that I think is also inherent in what you said before to the first question around like your experiences, what you went through, and then also what self love is I think self love also is about you not letting terrible experiences define who you are,
Yes.
right? It's that connection between, are you a victim or are you a victor? And I think when you took the keys back and you said, hey, I know I've had a rough childhood, I know there's things that I've gone through that I could easily today allow to define who I am. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm going to resolve that. I'm going to fix that. And I think to me, that's the hardest part. And before you can even get to, oh, I'm going to have a movie day and I'm just going to enjoy myself, there's a lot of voices going on in your head. And those voices don't become silenced until you know who you are. So then when those voices come at you, you're like, that's not who I am. I already know who I am. I know who God has created me to be. I know who I am destined to be, who I'm destined to serve. And no matter what I hear, if it's, oh, why are you helping that person? That person's not going to be there for you. No, you don't tell me that because I know what I've been called to do. And to me, I think that when I think about self love, it really starts first with what you just said. I am a victor. I've been through some tough stuff. There's an analogy I've seen before where they had these different jars. There was like 4 jars on a table, and all the jars had like the first jar had this very dark liquid substance in it. And then they took that jar and then they poured it into the second jar that was empty. And then that jar was full of this dark liquid substance. Then they took the second jar, poured it into the third jar that was empty, and then they ran water through it. And what ended up happening was that liquid started to become clear over time. They then took that jar and poured it into the fourth. And what they said was this represents how you have traumas that pass down from generation to generation and then cleansing that trauma. And what I've heard from you, Andrea, is you've had the opportunity to carry those childhood experiences that you've been through onto your family, but you made the choice that this would not be me because this is not who God has called me to be. And to me, that is probably one of the most powerful steps that any of us can take in our journey to self love is first defining who you are, right, Ariana, and whose we are. When we've defined those two things, then you can really take control over your life and who God has called you to be. So I just wanted to share that bit that came up and see what you thought about that, Andrea, and if that's something that aligns with kind of your thinking.
Yes, of course. So all of that, everything you said, it's layers to this self-love journey. So it's not just one thing, like sitting with yourself, but like you said, making sure you overcome those childhood traumas and don't take it on to your kids and it spills over to their kids and their
Mm.
kids, just stopping it where it is and teaching them how to love properly, right?
Mm,
Themselves and others, not being selfish, but being selfless. And I think that's important, like the giving and not giving too much of yourself. So it's important to say no because people can tend to try to take advantage of you if you appear to be a nice person, right? So just embracing that love. So it goes through all the 10 different steps of self-forgiveness because we carry things on and we blame ourselves. I blame myself for years about things that happened. Well, maybe if I would have did this differently, my mom would have loved me or this person would have cared more for me and things like that. And then just realizing it's not my fault. What could I have done at 7, 8, 12, 16, even, I'm not an adult and I'm supposed to be learning from you and I'm just learning bad habits, but I don't want those habits. So how do I embrace that and embrace myself in different relationships and accept, myself and what I've been through? And what I don't like a lot of times is people make you a victim. Oh, you're always going to be a victim. You're always going to have this trauma like
Mhm.
AA. You're always going to be an alcoholic. No, I'm not. Like, I don't think that's okay. So we live in that trauma because people want to get paid, and that's the problem. So if they don't have these victims, then how could they continue to their career? And they want to be the victors. Like, I'm doing this great things for these people because they're alcoholics or they're drug addicts or they're, trafficked or they're this. So they put these labels on us. And we're never going to be healed if we don't get out of that sick place that we're in. So just healing by love and taking that power back and just saying, no, that's not who I am. And I'm not going to allow you to define me ever. So that was
Yeah, I
important.
agree. I agree. I'm excited to hear about like the 10 steps, right?
mm,
To that you've outlined in the book about how to love yourself. But before I get there, I want to know from your perspective, what are some common misconceptions that people have about self-love? Because I think that's important because I think people view self-love or say, well, yeah, I love myself, and it's, there's misconceptions about it.
mhm.
So I'm gonna use you for example. All right.
Okay.
Like, you're beautiful, right? You're well put together. You
Thank you.
show up for yourself. And people are like, oh, well, I got up this morning, I showered, look at me. Look what I have. It's not about possessions. And that's
Mm,
about your outer appearance. It's about the inside, and that exudes outside of you to everybody else. Because just from being on here and having conversations with you and talking to you, I could tell that you love people, you care about people, you help people, right? Even Antoine, we have these conversations before, and it's all love all the time, right? And so people don't have that. You look as great as you look, and you don't have anybody to support you or come around, so now you're upset,
mm,
and you're feeling down about yourself, and people don't know that when you pull up your sleeve, you have these cup marks, but how could you love yourself when you're abusing yourself, or you're drinking, you're an
mm.
alcoholic? So you're finding, sorrow in different things. That's not love. I'm spending all my money, my credit cards are maxed out, but I look good, and my rent isn't paid, but I'm going to the Beyoncé concert. Like, that doesn't
I can't with you.
that's not love, and I believe just sitting with yourself and finding out what you, because my thing was shopping. I did that too much, you know, and it's just like when I have an issue or I want to feel better, I go buy something that I don't need. That's not taking care of myself or loving myself because then I become, my finances are, depleting, and then I'm stressed. So how can I
Yeah.
make, so it's always something that you have to figure out, like, why is this a problem for me? Am I taking in consideration how this is going to make me feel? Like it's a temporary bandage because I went and bought these things, right? It's a temporary bandage where I show up and I'm made up, but I'm still feeling down. I don't have anybody to talk to about my problems because I don't trust anybody to do that, meaning I don't
Yeah.
trust
Mm.
myself enough to pick the right people in my life.
Yeah, I think you hit that on the head like so well. Like I remember I had a journey where I lost like 90 pounds in like 8 months years ago. And I was working on myself physically. And people will see me and they'll be like, wow, like you could be a personal trainer because I was so fit. And inside, I was rotten. I was, I wasn't really a nice person. I would have outbursts and like anger, and I was drinking, and you know what I mean? I was just being a hot mess and stuff like that. But on the outside, I presented very, very well. And and I didn't notice because I stayed on that journey for 10 years, and I didn't notice that I wasn't loving myself. I thought I was because I was feeding myself the right things. So I was loving myself because, and I love myself because, I'm having my green juices in the morning and my carrot juices, and I'm eating quinoa, and I'm having, steamed fish. So yeah, like I'm taking care of my body and I love myself. But inside there was so much unhealed wounds, so much trauma that triggered certain things that caused other behaviors out of me that didn't translate to self-love, right? There was a lot of self-sabotaging things that I was doing, although in a perspective, people were looking at me like you're saying, like she's well put together, she has all this and has all that, but inside I wasn't happy, right? And then fast forward, like me going through therapy and stuff like that, and really healing inside, right? And really finding who I am and my inner child, and releasing hatred towards my parents, how I was raised, and not having my dad, and my abandonment issues, and really loving and forgiving my dad and different people in my life that I feel hurt me verbally, or things like that. I started realizing that my weight isn't I thought my weight can cover up all my trauma. Like if I'm fit and skinny, people are gonna love me, and I'm
Yeah.
never gonna be single, and I'm gonna have love in my life. So the heck with dealing with trauma, I'm fit. And now I'm realizing, I've gained a lot of the weight back, probably all of it that I had lost all those years ago, but I've gained so much more inside. I've gained so much more. I feel like I am such a better person. Like I don't feel like I'm as selfish as I was, although that's something that I'm still working on, right? Because it's progress, not perfection. But I have uncovered a lot of that hurt. I faced it, and I feel love for myself. I say no when I need to say no. I have boundaries with people. Like from a distance, I'm going to love you, and I don't feel guilty about it. If I have to cut you off, is for myself, my sanity, my inner child. Like I have to be one with me, taking myself out on dates and everything that you're
Yes.
saying, spending time with myself and loving on myself, still single, but happy, still joyful. You know what I mean? Through the journey of, still finding my person that I know God is going to bring to me, one day. But for now, this is my journey. And there's things I still need to clear and completely, be one with myself and have that consistency. I know is going to attract me, my person. But it's true what you're saying. A lot of people perceive, oh, they have to love themselves because they have the new car of the year. They have the Louis Vuittons and the Chanel bags and the Fendis, and you know, no,
They don't even have
Yeah.
that's
a dollar in their wallet.
yeah, exactly. And then they're broke or in debt. And that's just not self-love. Self-love, you take care of every area of your life, spirituality, financially, health, personal life, professional life. You try your best to have everything sane and good for yourself and for others, where it's not just a one-way street. Everything is a two-way street of giving and receiving, right? And not depleting yourself and having things negative. So I think you're totally right when you said about the misconception. So I hope that for those watching, like, can see themselves, if that's you, and be like, okay, I need to kind of stop thinking that me spending all my money after I get paid, because I'm gonna maybe even go out for drinks and pay everybody's drinks. It's not self-love.
Yeah. I love how you tie that together, because yeah, man, like that's so powerful. I think there's this conception, right, that, or misconception, that everything externally is representing what is happening internally, but it's quite the opposite. It's the inverse. Like when you think about, even, I'm going to go back to our Chinese bamboo tree example, because we love the Chinese bamboo tree and how tall and big these Chinese bamboo trees are, but they start from such a small seed. And that growth over time is happening because there's so much happening internally within that seed to produce that plant. It's no different than with us. It's the exact same way. Like the internal work that we're doing will eventually manifest itself in the external. And you're absolutely right, Ariana. I love that. Like it's a holistic approach. It's not one thing over the other. It's not, oh, if I have the perfect body, then this will happen. It's like, no, all of it happens in a systematic way. As you work internally and you understand who you are, whose you are, those traumas and experiences you had through life, you've not allowed those to define who you are, but you define who you are based off of what God has created you for. Everything else will work out. Everything that's meant to be will happen the way it was supposed to happen. And I think there's this, and I fell into this boat a lot of times my own self. There is this almost need to want to fill those gaps of things that we see that are missing from our lives through external things. And we feel it's our place to put those in place. So, oh, I'm having a bad day, so I'm going to go buy me a new car because I'm having a terrible day today. And if I get a new car, I'm going to feel great. And if I feel great, I'm going to attract these new people. They're going to be my friends. Like we create this story and it's like, what are we doing? Right? How about if you're having a bad day, find out why you're having a bad day. Like what's going on internally in me? What happened? Did someone say something that pissed me off? Right? Why did that piss me off? What did that mean for me? And this goes back to exactly what you were saying, Andrea. Like it's about having that quiet time. We don't want to have those discussions because we're afraid of what it's going to reveal about ourselves. We don't want to have that quiet time and ask those hard questions because it may come out that, I was wrong. How I was acting was not the right way. I owe that person an apology. But no, it's not about what they did. What did you do? So, Ariana, I love that. I love you bringing up this misconception because I think there is a misconception around how we think about self love at times. But it sounds like you, Andrea, have found what are these key steps, these 10 key steps that will ensure that we understand truly what self-love means and to provide that guidance for us. So help us understand, like, what are those 10 steps? How should we be thinking about self-love in our own lives?
So the first step is self-introduction, and it's reintroducing ourselves to us, who we really are at our core. And that leads into our self-forgiveness, right? So learning how to forgive ourselves about the things that happen to us in our life. Just taking a mental note, journaling, writing that down. Like, why do I feel this way about this? How can I reconnect with myself? Right? I have to forgive everything that I felt like was my fault. And then the self healing. How do I move past this trauma and pain? How do I go into healing myself? Because I have to do this for myself. I can talk to people all day long about my issues and my problems, but if I don't do it internal work, then I'm not going to heal. So that's impossible, right? So self-understanding, understanding what I need, what I want, what I like, what I dislike, right? We have to go into that and understanding ourselves, knowing our bodies, knowing our comfortability levels with people and things. And when we get triggered, that's very important. So if we don't understand that, we can't get past the healing phase. So all these steps leads into each other, knowing our value. So it's the next step is self-value, valuing ourselves as a whole, not allowing people to dictate who we are or take away from what we have that gives value to other people. Then we move on to self trust, trusting ourselves enough that knowing if we share our story, it can help other people. Because, like I said before, I believe that we are all here for a purpose, and my story can help so many other people. And I don't know what other people have been through, but just it can spark a conversation within themselves and for them to dig deep into their self and learn about who they are, right? Self recognition, learning that it's okay to recognize my flaws, my accomplishments, the goals that I set. So that's very important. Just self recognition, I think, is a really important one. Self praise, cheering on ourselves, clapping for ourselves, congratulating ourselves, doing something kind for ourselves. Just making sure that we do give that praise because a lot of times people make us feel like we can't be proud of the things that we do. And why is it so hard for us to do that? We could give everybody else praise and say, oh, you did a good job. This is wonderful. But what about me? Why can't I do that for myself? And that goes back to the self love as well. Self knowing, knowing who I am and standing in that truth, right? and not apologizing for how I feel, what I've learned about me, and also sharing that experience, just knowing, and that's very important. Self acceptance is the last step. And we have to be able to accept all these different layers of ourselves, accepting our past, our present, and our future. And how are we going to change this? I believe that we are all at cause at some point over our life. We make the decision to do right. We make the decision to heal, to forgive, to understand, to value, to trust, to give ourselves recognition and praise, and knowing ourselves. So accepting every part of us, unapologetically. And sometimes that's tough for a lot of us. And then going back to the pillars, Creative Love Network, love principles. And our four pillars is love, the foundational pillars of our organization. And number one is love. I will love myself and others, and I will do things out of love. Number two is organize. I will organize my life and I will seek order over chaos, which is important, right? We don't want to have too much chaos in our life because it causes confusion. And number
Mm.
three is value. I will value the whole of me, right? And I will seek value in others. So we have to value ourselves. How can we value other people if we don't have that value in ourselves? So evolving, number four is evolve. I will evolve into a better me and I will always work to improve as a person. And that's becoming a better person and recognizing who we are and moving, knowing ourselves and moving forward from that trauma. And I believe that when I love, organize, value, and evolve, I will become a better person. And I am doing my part to make this world a better place. Because if I'm healed and I'm okay and I'm loving myself, I can exude that love to other people, my children, my family. And that's making me a beacon of light, right? So people who are drawn to me and able to talk and have conversations to me to find out, how do you get to this place in your life that you are? I see that you look so happy, you just have so much great energy, and people feel that, and that's important.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for uncovering those 10 important steps to self-love and the pillars. I got kind of overwhelmed as you were speaking because it brought me to my journey to self-love and how did it all start, because I have done all of these steps, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm familiar with them. I can relate. And then it brought me to like what started it all for me, what made me feel safe and comfortable to uncover all these traumas, because it's scary. You break down. It feels like a big mountain over your shoulders just at the thought of going back to those places of experiences as a child and the things that were done and said and the way you felt. It's very painful. So on our own, I don't think we can get to these steps that you just said on our own as like our own human beings self. And I thought about it like, damn, this is tough work to do. And what hit me, and what I felt like God tell me was like to tell everybody, like he said, through me, all these things won't feel as such a burden to overcome, because his love over over overpowers everything that has ever been done to us. So I think for me in my life and my journey, just to help someone else out there also as well to embrace these steps, is having God in your center and having him help you do these things, reach out for help, and uncover all these things that happen, because on our own they do feel very scary. They do feel like something you don't even want to touch on, because it brings so much pain that we feel like we're going to die. But you're not going to die, because the worst already happened. You already lived that. The worst is over. Right now we just have to get to a place of recognizing it, how it's affecting us, and that we don't have to stay there anymore. But God is the one that holds us in that season, in that time, from each step. You know what I mean? Looking at ourselves, reintroducing ourselves to ourselves, forgiving ourselves, right? Forgiving others, feeling, working through the healing journey, right? Doing that internal work. having self-understanding, what I want, what I don't want, what do I like, who am I, and answering all these questions, right? It feels icky if we don't have God in our center, because God is going to also help us communicate these things to us, to give us that heart space where it feels good to ask and to want and to feel like I deserve to know what I like. I deserve to know who I am. I deserve to know I am worthy. I deserve to know that. But if we don't have God in our heart space helping us come to these conclusions, it'll be tougher, you know? So I just kind of wanted to go there a bit because it kind of brought me back to me. And I just see God in all of this. And he helps us through this. And it's possible for all of us, any one of us that is dealing with some deep trauma, deep things that we have went through, that things that we don't want to face, that we just truly ignored and pushed under the rug. That, you know, if God is calling you to dig under that rug and find what's there, he's going to help you find, uncover, and heal. He's going to help you release all of it. He's going to help you find forgiveness for those people, find forgiveness for yourself, for that, you know, maybe shame that you have felt through it, you know, the things that have happened, maybe you blamed yourself, so you feel guilty. He's going to release all that, you know, he's going to help you find release. So I don't know, Antoine, if you have anything about it, but
Yeah.
I love these 10 steps. I think they are very crucial. I think that if anybody's watching, I mean, like, I would run to purchase this book and really get more info on these steps, because I'm sure, you know, Andrea uncovers them in more details for you. And you know, start the work, because it's scary, but what's on the other side, it's so beautiful. It is so beautiful what's on the other side of looking at yourself and saying, girl, I'm worthy. You know, man, I'm worthy. Like, I love myself. Like, you know, people can try to put me down, people can try to put me in my feelings, but you know, I have this love for me and God loves me. Like, you'll be all right. Like, your trauma is not going to affect me today. That's on you. Because if you're doing something to hurt me, that means you're going through something. And I am not going to take that on today, because I'm a child of God and God loves me and I love me and I'm good. My day was okay before you tried me. So keep that over there, right? Cutting people off if you need to, you know what I'm saying? So, so, you know, I'm just, you know, thinking about this, and I just want to, you know, say for anybody who's out there, like, you know, then, you know, we'll drop a link somewhere.
Yeah.
We'll give you info from Andrea at the end of the call so that you can get access to this amazing book. So I don't know if Antoine, you had anything about
Yeah,
the 10 steps.
I couldn't agree with everything you said more. What came to me was really in that 4 pillars that Andrea laid out, the 4 pillars of the Creative Love Network, where really dropped in my spirit was that scripture where it's like, you know, with faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. When I think about those 10 steps and then all of those being grounded in that acronym that you used of love, like I will love myself and others, I will organize my life and seek organize my life and seek order over chaos. I will value the whole of me and value the whole of others. I will evolve into a better version of me. To me, when Ariana was saying, you know, it's really hard to do this. Like, this is hard work. It is. And with God and with love, anything is possible. And I think that acronym of love really anchors all 10 of these, because none of these can happen without God. And then God is helping you to reveal all those things that you just outlined under love. Starts with loving myself. How many of us can truly, honestly say we love ourselves? Like, I can tell you right now, there are days where I do not love myself. I don't show myself the type of love that it deserves. And it's okay. Like, you're not going to always get it right, but it's a process. And that's what I'm also hearing from everything you're sharing, is that this isn't a quick fix. This isn't an overnight. Like, even as Ariana was just mentioning, like her journey and her experience started years ago. Like, all this work started years ago, and she's still working on it today. It's not a one and done. This process is forever evolving. So to your last part about I'm evolving into a better me, constant and never ending improvement is something that you have to work on every day. And it starts with you. We talk about a lot about business. We talk about a lot with our relationships. But what I have come to learn, business and relationships, their improvement starts with you. If I'm not at a great place, how can I expect my business to be at a great place? If I'm not at a great place, how can I expect my relationship to be at a great place? If I'm not a great place, how can I expect to just be that functioning human being in society that God has called me to be? How can I be a great parent? Like they talk about putting your face mask on first, or your gas mask on first, and we laugh at it because it's become such a cliche thing to say. But what you've just outlined here in this beautiful 10-step process and these pillars of love is that this is why. This is why. So I mean, I'm still taking it all in. I'm still reading through my notes as she was talking, because I see so many areas of my life that when I go and I get this book, that I'm going to automatically start applying it. I can tell you right now, just even going to the section of forgiveness, like really forgiving myself for things that I've done, allowing understand like that's okay. You screwed up there. That's all right. Like don't hold on to it. It's not meant to be there forever. What you knew at that time is what you knew, and now things are different. I'm ready. I'm ready.